everybody. My name is Steve. I am the Affordable Life Coach. And if you're interested in a complimentary consultation, send me an email. It's in the description. Then the sessions are ridiculously affordable afterwards. I've been coaching for 13 and a half years. And today we are going to talk about commitment. We deceive ourselves all the time, and we don't even realize it. And that's what's beautiful about when I coach people, is getting them to look at their lives and themselves in an honest way. And it can be uncomfortable and it can stir up some emotions, but it also sets you free, because we are so good at deceiving ourselves and believing our own lies and BS. And it holds us back. And we always have an excuse or rationalization or justification to explain why we're struggling, why we're not living up to our potential, why we can't stick to a habit, why we can't stick to a goal, why our relationships fall apart, why our health, we don't take care of it. There's always that voice in our head, and that justifies and excuses our behavior. And most of our friends and family are not going to tell us. And if they do tell us, we're not really open and receptive to listening. And we just feel criticized. And when I have coaching sessions with clients, it's like truth serum. It's asking them questions and getting them to be honest with themselves and challenging their belief system, their value system, their level of commitment, their level of authenticity, being honest with how fear, laziness, insecurity, self-doubt, psychological buzzwords like imposter syndrome limit their lives. And when you can look at yourself honestly, you can start healing. You can start working on the underlying issues that are causing dysfunction in your relationships, dysfunction with having a healthy work-life balance, or just a healthy life balance in general. You can stop the procrastination, the wish list goals, the fantasies, the dream, and the acceptance of mediocrity. When we look at ourselves honestly, and that's why life coaching is so effective, and especially the approach that I take is, I'm here to support you, to help you with accountability, to give you strategies and techniques. But the most important thing is to tell you the truth. And I want the same back from my clients. It's just for us to be honest, because it's rare that we have an opportunity to just be ourselves, let down the guard, and have open, honest, real communication. There's the image that we portray to other people that hides our insecurities, our fears, our weaknesses, our anger, our pain, our frustration, our suffering, that we put out to the world, and it's false advertising. And then we wonder why we can't have deep connections. And then we wonder why we can't stick to things. And it's because we have dishonesty has become so normalized that most people don't even realize they're engaging in it. And it's something we have to constantly be vigilant about am I being true to myself? Am I speaking honestly? Am I being vulnerable with people? Or am I just trying to hide my flaws and to exude an image of strength, of confidence, of I got my life together, or how successful I am? We don't want to be weak. And when you allow yourself to be human, and to be human is to be weak and to have frailties and flaws and insecurities and self-doubt and limitations and personality traits that are a little bit quirky. When you allow yourself to be human and you show who you really are, it allows other people to be themselves as well. Because when you portray an image, and you might not even realize you're doing this, and that's what I have to deal with oftentimes in coaching sessions, is clients are trying to portray an image to me because they want to be perceived in a certain way. They want to manage how others and how I perceive them. And everybody wants to be perceived in a positive light, to be affirmed, to be loved, to be liked, to be approved of. But what's the cost? What's the price that we truly pay? And do those people that you seek their approval, do they really care about you? Do they really got your back? Do they really connect with you? Do they really like you? Or do they not even know you? And do they like the image that you're portraying or that you're projecting? And you can't be confident, you can't be courageous, you can't be bold if you can't be vulnerable. And if you can't be honest, and if you can't be authentic, and if you can't own your strengths and weaknesses. We all have them. And what happens is why we struggle with committing and sticking to things is because it's very shallow. Our why doesn't have depth. It doesn't have something you could bite down on, or like a target that you could really focus on. It's shallow and superficial. When you wake up in the day, most of us don't realize it, but we're trying to have the most positive, control and manipulate our day to be positive, to not getting criticized, to having things go right, to not failing, to not making mistakes. And do you know how exhausting that is? One of the things one of my clients said to me is that portraying and trying to control their lives, it takes so much effort. And I realize it too for myself. It takes so much effort trying to control things and portray an image and to be perfect and to not make mistakes, because then you're riddled with worry, fear, anxiety. And it robs you of being able to be in that state of flow. And the question might be, well, it's so ingrained in us, and it's all around. And it's kind of like one of those things, you get a car, and once you get that car, you start seeing that car everywhere, or you see it more regularly. When you become aware of it, you can't unsee it. When you become aware of the superficial shallowness of most human interactions, you can't unsee it, and how everyone is doing marketing, branding themselves, trying to control their message and their image and how they're being perceived. You can't unsee it. You see the BS and the deception and the superficiality everywhere. When you go out, like just in social situations, I used to wait tables And you come by the table and you hear what the people are talking about. And the majority of time, it's very worldly, material, talking about movies, talking about, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it, but is that the majority of what people talk about? Talking about their job, talking about their possessions, their house, their new car, talking about sports, talking about foods they ate, restaurants they went to, about drinking, or just gossiping about other people. Like, how well do we even really know each other? And that's why I love coaching clients, because they're allowed to be themselves. And when I'm coaching, it's like they don't even really have an option, because they're not going to be able to pull the facade and try to hook me in to perceiving them into a false representation of who they truly are. And it's so liberating to not have to carry that burden and that weight around. What is the antidote? How do we overcome this? It's a commitment to values. We don't talk about values. When's the last time you went to a party or you were in a social situation and someone asked you, what are your values? What are your deeply held beliefs? What's most important to you? What would you give your life for? What would you give your time, energy, and effort for? And it's like, what? If you were to ask someone that, they would think you're nuts. And that just goes to show that people will let you in, most people, but only to a certain degree. The wall comes up. I even had one guy that I was trying to get to know, and I'm terrible at small talk, and I enjoy really to get to know people. And he the wall came up, and he said to me, you're asking me too many uncomfortable questions. And he just stopped talking to me, which is fine. That's absolutely fine. But it's strange that this has become normalized, and we're okay of being sheep, that we just follow each other and we just conform to whatever we think will be accepted, will get us a pat on the back, or say, hey, look, he thinks just like us, he's part of the club. It's everywhere. How can we look at ourselves in the mirror and feel good at what's looking back at us? We're being phony. We're being false. And we just look at the short-term gain of it. Oh, these people like me. I didn't say anything awkward or uncomfortable, and I didn't get judged or criticized. But what's the long-term price that we pay? It is significant, and it slowly erodes at our confidence, and then we can't understand why we have social anxiety, why that's an epidemic. One, everyone's on their phones, so we don't get to practice the skill of actually connecting to people. And two, how can we feel confident in a false image of who we are? And I'm not saying you have to make an overnight change. A lot of the work that I do with clients is around social goals, and we have social stretching goals. And some clients will track their social stretches. I'll give them social stretches, and it's like they're scared, they're afraid, but after they do it, they're liberated. And then we talk about it during the next session. And there's gentle accountability, because they know they're going to come to the coaching session, and we're going to talk about their social stretching victories. And even people that portray the image of confidence, like the alpha male, it's still an image. Most of the time, there are a few people that are genuinely authentic and real and vulnerable and honest with who they are. I hardly ever meet them, but they do exist. But most of the time, it's all about the clothes you wear, superficial things, the car you drive, the crowd you hang around, how attractive your partner is, how smart or well your kids do in school, or how well they do on the sports team. Shallow, superficial. And it speaks to a bigger problem for the clients that are willing to address it in the sessions. It's a spiritual void. When you don't have a strong spiritual core and something that's your rock, you're going to look for superficial things. You're going to look for applause and approval and material things and things that are temporal. Back to the values. How do we overcome this? It's committing to our values. You show me, or when I'm coaching a client, you show me their life, how they spend their time, how they spend their day, how they spend their money, what their goals are, what their habits are, what their lifestyle's like. I have a good idea of what their values are. And some of the clients who struggle with contentment, struggle with confidence, struggle with feeling good about themselves, struggle with a sense of purpose, struggle with laziness, procrastination, perfectionism. A common theme of their values is they want comfort, they want safety, they want pleasure, they want ease, they want short-term rewards and gratification. And then they want the cherry on top is then they want to complain about how unhappy or miserable their lives are. Or not even that. Maybe their lives are just average and mediocre. Well, that is totally dependent on your values. Your values are going to reflect, your actions are going to reflect your values. And if you don't like your actions and your lifestyle and your social life and the way you engage with other people, start examining your values. And maybe just start with 3 values to start with. So what do we work on in coaching? Hey, let's start with the value of discomfort. What? I don't want to be uncomfortable? Okay. Then stagnate. Then feel purposeless, rudderless. Feel like your life doesn't have any spark. You have to feel uncomfortable in order to grow. And I'm not talking about doing extreme things. One of my clients, we're just working on, he has high levels of social anxiety. And we're just working on social stretching goals, talking to strangers, asking questions. And he says he's nervous. Well, of course he's nervous because it's not something he normally does, because his previous value was comfort, ease, pleasure, and avoidance. Avoidance of anything that could get him rejected. And when you live your life in the shallow end of the pool, you don't learn how to swim. And then we want to complain, I don't know how to swim, and I'm a victim, and society has created this in me, or I can't succeed because a list of all the excuses, all the justifications, all the rationalizations. You get, doing this 13 and a half years, you get a pretty quick read on people. And you can see when they're really being truthful with themselves. And that's the biggest part. It's not, the biggest crime is not that we're not honest and authentic with other people. The biggest crime is we're not honest and authentic with ourselves. And the ripple effect affects every area of your life. Why am I feeling depressed? Why are my relationships not fulfilling? Why am I not more successful? Why am I not having a career that's in alignment with what I enjoy? Why am I not waking up in the morning excited about the day? And that's, we get them in coaching sessions. I work on, in coaching sessions, getting them on that path by starting off with being honest with themselves. And sometimes it's really uncomfortable because most people are not used to being challenged about the lies they tell themselves, their own self-deception. They're just not. Friends don't do it. Most therapists don't do it. We want to affirm people. Society doesn't encourage it. We want to affirm people. We want to make people feel good about themselves. We don't want to say anything that makes people uncomfortable. We don't want to say anything that could possibly hurt someone, hurt their feelings. No, we need it, as long as it's not done in a malicious, rude, hostile, aggressive way, that you're doing it from a place of love and caring. We need to have our feelings hurt. Some of my greatest progress as a coach is when clients were honest with me and told me things are uncomfortable, and my feelings might have gotten hurt. But then I turn it into fuel and say, you know what they said has a grain of truth, or it's completely true, and I'm going to improve. I'm going to take that feedback and grow from it and evolve. We have a bunch of flowers that wilt at the slightest, a society, a bunch of flowers at the slightest honesty. And that's harming us. Yeah, some clients, they'll get upset with me. And even in not even just clients, just in my life, people will get upset with me when I'm honest and authentic with them. And that's okay. Some of my deepest connections with people is when we kind of sparred. I said what I feel was bothering me or hurting me, or something I needed to express, or something that was authentic. They say it back, and it's with the goal to clear the air and to heal and to bond. Communication is the glue of our relationships. And if we're not being honest, we don't have that glue. And then we can't understand why the divorce rate is so high. It's about commitment. And we're just not a society that is driven by commitment. We're driven by what's easy, what's short-term beneficial, what's going to make us feel good. Hey, drinking alcohol makes a lot of people feel good. But then you always have the hangover. And that's what being dishonest with ourselves, being dishonest with others, having that short-term mindset, it leaves us with the hangover. And then we want a pill to medicate the hangover without realizing that, hey, you know what? I need to do challenging things. I need to have challenging conversations. I need to be challenged by a coach to get me to look at my life in no way that a family member or friend could. I want to grow. And so that's another value. I want to grow. And if you're not stretching yourself, if you're not doing things that make you uncomfortable, if you're not being vulnerable, if you're not being authentic and honest with people, how are you going to grow? Yeah, you're safe. I love the quote. A ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are made for. But that's how most people live their lives, in harbor. They stay at the same job, even though they're unhappy, they're unfulfilled. It's not in alignment with their purpose. Even then, you could still commit to the job, and you'll feel more purpose, and you'll feel more fulfilled, and you feel more contentment, or you might have to leave the job. We don't talk to our partners. We don't talk to our family in a way that's honest. It's like, oh, we just sweep things under the rug. We suppress things. That's another commitment of a value to honesty and openness and transparency. Other values, I want to do things that build my muscle of courage. That's what I want to work on in myself, and that's what I encourage clients to do is work. Courage comes, confidence comes by doing things that require courage. And the outcome is you feel more courageous, you feel more confident. It's hard to feel good about yourself when you don't do difficult things. When you have a sense of accomplishment, you feel good about yourself. The other thing is feelings. I can't tell you how many times that comes up. Hey, because each session for the clients that want to, we set action items of things they'd like to accomplish before our next session, and they know they have that accountability. And when they miss the goal, I didn't feel like it. I felt like going on Netflix, or I felt like sleeping, or I felt like going out and drinking. And if you're run by your feelings, you're going to fail. Because feelings are like the weather. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's stormy. If you have a value of setting a goal and committing to it and starting small and gradually building upon it incrementally, and you build that muscle of commitment. Our commitment muscle is so weak as a society, as a culture. We want that instant reward, instant gratification, and we don't get it, we quit. When we don't get what we want from our relationships, instead of working on it and doing the due diligence to have honest communication, to heal, to stop sweeping things under the rug, to stop people pleasing, if we take the path of least resistance and just, I don't want to have any confrontation, I don't want to have these conversations with my partner, it's going to take its toll. But if you have a commitment, I am committed to my relationships, my friendships, my marriage, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, you're going to do the things that are hard because that's what's going to keep the relationship bonded and close and connected. Or you're going to figure out, hey, this person is not on the same page. They don't want to grow together. They don't want to work on the issues that I bring up, or they get hyper defensive. But even then, there's a solution. Yeah, I do couples counseling as well, and it's amazing in couples counseling, and people don't realize it, that the underlying weakness, the weakest link of their relationship that causes a relationship to start to crumble is they're not committed to each other. They don't have that value of commitment to each other. They're committed to each other as long as they're getting their needs met or what I want from that person. Instead of I'm committed to this person because one, I took an oath of marriage, or two, because I love this person. I want them to be happy. I want to feel like we're one. We're together in this. That your happiness is my happiness. And that's the beautiful thing of establishing what your values are. And if you're unhappy with your life, examine your values. You might value suppressing your emotions because it's easier. Of course it's easier. Short term. Long term, it's dangerous. It's risky. It leaves a path of destruction and pain and suffering. So if this video resonates with you and you'd like some affordable coaching, send me an email. It's in the description. No obligation. Consultation's free, and then it's session by session, and those are, like I said, incredibly affordable. And if you're open to it, write down in the comments what your 3 values are. And be honest. It's like, hey, these Yeah. And the best way to know what your values are, just look at your life. Your life will reflect what your values are. And be honest. Hey, here are my values, 3 values now, based on my life. Not what I want them to be, but what they really are, and being honest. And then here's what I like my 3 values to be instead. We have to tune out the noise of the world. The noise of the world wants to drown out our individuality, drown out our any sense of focusing on what's truly important in life, and get caught up in the divisiveness, the drama, the chaos, the doom and gloom, the headlines. Like, retreat within yourself and go to God and develop that strong relationship and that strong connection. And that's the only way really to have peace. And I know I used to be an atheist, and I know atheists, and even atheism, it becomes their religion. We all have a religion. And usually for most people, it's themselves. And that's why there's so much misery, so much addiction, so much anxiety, so much suffering, so much depression. And we're not really nice to each other. We're not even really nice, oftentimes, to those that we claim to love the most. And it's taking the spotlight off of ourselves and focusing on other people. And maybe that's a value. It's just giving love instead of demanding love, or demanding rights, or demanding victimhood. Why do we want to be dependent on what the culture says, or what society says, or what other people says? There's a higher power to turn to. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. You got to look at our society. It's sick. It's dysfunctional. And there's a reason for that. We've become a society and culture that worships ourselves, our ego. And it's all about me, 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 me. And it's all about superficial, materialistic things that are temporal instead of things that are eternal. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a link in the description. And any comments, any constructive feedback for me, please leave that in the comments as well. And I appreciate you watching and your support. Until next time, bye-bye.